session. So now, can we do the pledge? Do we have is there a young man or a young woman out there? And when I say that, I know all of you are going to rush to the podium and lead us in the pledge. Can somebody help us with the pledge? Okay, great. Thank you.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you give your name to Mrs. Warren so we can have it for the minutes?
I'm Alan Pellicani, Alan, A-L-A-N, last name Pellicani, P-E-L-L-A-C-A-N-I.
All right. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Newark Junior High.
Okay, with that, I'm going to report on closed session actions. The board, as a majority, 5-0 on both items, took action in closed session to amend the employment agreement between the Newark Unified School District and Dr. Greenberg English. The title from Senior Director to Chief Academic Officer. We also took action on Mr. Timothy Irwin, our Senior Director of HR, to Assistant Superintendent. So we changed the titles on both. Superintendent, did you want to comment on that, please?
I would. Thank you, President Rodriguez, and thank you, Board. The school district over the last several years has gone through a very difficult time. Certainly over the last 3 years, and to a great extent, the leadership of Dr. English and Mr. Irwin have helped, at least from the administrative level. I know they've been a help for me this last year of my tenure as superintendent, and I think it is an opportunity for them as they grow and they develop and continue in their educational pursuits. And certainly look forward to working together with them this year again as a close team. So congratulations to both of you, and thank you.
Do you want to say anything, Mr. Irwin?
Yes, thank you, President Rodriguez and members of the Board of Education. It's a great anniversary present in the sense that I'm coming up on my 5th anniversary in HR.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And beginning my 14th school year with Newark Unified School District. So I thank the Board of Education for the trust and confidence that you have put in me over all of these years, and certainly for Dr. Markin for supporting this title change. And again, thank you, all of you, for that.
Dr. Greenberg English.
I echo what Tim just said a few minutes ago. I thank you. I thank you for the confidence that you have placed in me, and it means a lot to me, so I'll keep it very short. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Approval of agenda. Need a motion and a second?
So moved.
Member Schaefer moves, Member Crocker seconds. Please vote. With no changes, okay, it's 5 ayes, unanimous. Thank you.
Okay.
Announcements and upcoming events. Dr. Markin.
Yes, thank you. Several events. First and foremost, we have Mr. Phil Morales, the new assistant principal from Newark Memorial High School. Already he's had a very, very profound impact in the life of the school. Phil comes to us from my actual old stomping grounds in Jefferson Union High School District as an assistant principal at Terra Nova High School. Our paths never crossed then. I was far earlier there than he was. But he was an assistant principal at Terra Nova, a very excellent high school in the Jefferson High School District. We are privileged to have him with us. We believe that Newark Memorial has a very rich and strong tradition, and we are glad to have you here. And Phil, welcome to Newark Unified and Newark Memorial. Maybe if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium and just bringing a little greeting, say hello to the board, and maybe fill in some of the blanks. I know that was a very brief introduction, but welcome.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Thank you for the opportunity to work in this district and to work at Newark Memorial. It's been fun so far, and I look forward to continue to work for the district and build a career here. Cougar Pride. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Morales.
You know, as I just wanted to share with the board, I've already had a couple of teachers and a couple of parents comment to me directly, either through email or in person, about Mr. Morales and the professional manner in which he handled items, and I shared that with him in a private email, but I wanted to share it with you as well. It's, so after a week at Newark Memorial, that's like, you know, that's like dog years. You're like, you've got like 37 years experience now, so, but thank you.
I knew you guys would click since you have similar haircuts.
Yeah, he's a handsome man.
Okay. I was back east, and I missed the opportunity to be to the back to school welcome by Dr. Markin, and I heard some wonderful things, and I'm still waiting for a copy of whatever we have. And Schaefer too missed it, and also, but heard nothing. Dr. Markin, awesome, 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 and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we go to staff reports.
Oh, wait. Yeah, I have more announcements.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's okay. Just wanted to also mention, we had a very good start to school. As I remind the board each year, it's difficult to go from 0 to 6,500 overnight. And year in, year out, we do that, some years better than others. I believe that the start of this year was probably better than last year. The start of next year will be better than this year, and as we try to look for continual improvement. But one of the things that's difficult, and this is the kind of the dilemma or the crux, if you will, between, for example, the business side of the house and the HR side of the house and the ed services side of the house, is that our students don't come in nice packages, meaning they don't come in nice little tight groups of 27 in second grade, and they don't come in packages of 31, and they don't all fit into every box in every class. So it takes a lot of work. It takes continual refinement. It takes continually debriefing the process to improve upon it, because as I said, you technically go from 0 to 6,500, and as hard as you try, there are glitches. I know I've told the board that when I was the high school principal, 11 days into the school year, we had to redo all of the student schedules, and everyone had to get a new schedule. And for almost 1,500 kids, it was an absolute nightmare. But more kids came in than we thought, and we had to add 11 sections. So I had to hire a single English teacher for one section, and was able to do it. It was quite crazy how that happened. But those are the issues that our elementary and secondary site administrators deal with, and it's difficult because you have overages and you have contract limits and you have all sorts of things that make these first few weeks very, very difficult. Also, I would also like to mention to the board some honors and recognitions that some of our site administrators have received. Dr. LaKimber Brown, the principal of Milani, is one of the American Achieves Fellows. It's a think tank out of the East Coast, and they have asked her to be a part of that educational think tank. And in addition, she is also on the International Teach for All group. And she was asked out of several hundred applicants and was selected for that. Mr. Mark Neal from Newark Junior High School is the middle grade state rep for Region 6. With his excellent experience, Mr. Marquez, our high school principal, is part of the Alliance Bridge to Employment Consortium, and he will be working with that group. And of course, Debbie Ashmore and Robin Surt are still continuing in their leadership roles. So it's very exciting to see as all of our administrators, teachers, Tom Collette, State Teacher of the Year, and the breadth and the strength of this organization we continually need to highlight. And so I want to thank them and honor them. And finally, Newark Days is September 22nd and 23rd. You saw from my email and my Friday update, I'm suggesting that we consider doing something a little bit different. It is a very arduous task for our elementary schools to put together floats and get kids in costumes and all of those sorts of things. So I felt that in the spirit of being a school district versus a district of schools, that we consider having one float and having all of the schools with parents, students, administrators, teachers, all in mass as a show of Newark Unified School District, bringing their school signs and walking with us in the float on that Saturday. So the response that I received from virtually everyone was very positive toward that. So I think barring any other delays, and especially since it's about 3 weeks away, I think that's where we would like to go. We added kids to the float last year, which I thought made sense since we're a school district, and now we're just maybe going to one-up it again. Now, to that end, however, the theme is, and we have nothing to do with this theme, I just want to put in that disclaimer, but the theme is Country Jamboree. So having said that, if you have, board members, cowboy hats or bib overhauls,
He looks like a bear. Is that count?
that could work. We will do our best to try to, well, yeah, we thought of that, and then we're just going to go with a bluegrass theme, and we've got instruments, and we're going to have all the kids wear jeans and t-shirts, and it's going to be, I have no idea what it's going to be. But if you have any of those items, if you would please email me. Otherwise, we will do our best to get those for you for that Saturday morning. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use the same schoolhouse. Also, Stuff the Bus was a week and a half ago, and it was sponsored by Kiwanis and Love Newark, and in excess of 30 boxes were received from the Walmart and from donations, and so we are in the process of boxing those, separating those by elementary and secondary, and we'll be disseminating those out to the schools as soon as we can.
Very nice.
And we have a new board member orientation. Wow, this is my longest superintendent report. As many of you know, Mr. Gary Stadler will be joining the board after the November election. And what we had initially intended was to do a new board orientation. We're going to continue with that every year if board members decide to retire or something like that, or new people decide to apply, so that we can give them an overview of the organization, kind of the nuances, the complexity of the organization. So cabinet and executive cabinet will be doing a new board member orientation on September 25th from 4 to 6. You are all absolutely cordially invited, and it would be very great for you to be there, certainly to show your support and also to kind of hear some of the new things that maybe you haven't heard for a little while from some of us. So this will be an ongoing yearly event as board members continue to show interest in our organization. Pardon me? 4 to 6 here in the training room. 4 to 6 on the 25th. And we have a new student board rep, Susan Lee, who is not here this evening, but I assume next board meeting she will be showing up. So we will get acquainted with her and welcome her officially to the dais and to the board. And that is my report.
Okay. Any board members that have any thoughts on the changing of the, what Dr. Markin talked about as far as Newark Days? We need to get that information to him as soon as possible, because we are running out of time.
Mr. Rodriguez, I'm sorry, I do have one other item. We don't have it actually on the record, but Alan Pellicani, who's here from the junior high, does have a junior high report.
Okay.
So I would like to give him an opportunity to bring the report on behalf of Newark Junior High School. Mr. Pellicani, welcome. You can lower the mic if that would help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leadership counts. Leadership matters. And I'm glad to say you have the right leaders here in Lucy and myself. Lucy is the vice president and is not present tonight. However, she will be present in future board meetings. We would like to thank you on behalf of our school for giving us electives back. We have taken full opportunity of this by the purchase of cameras for yearbook club, music sheets for band and choir, and supplies for art. We at NJHS are currently in progress of planning a welcome back dance toward the end of September. We're also planning an assembly where the leadership students will perform skits that show the dress code, do's and don'ts. The skits will also be anti-bully and promote the Cougar Code. Be respectful, be responsible, be ready to learn, be cooperative, and be safe. At the student store this year, we will be selling various items including erasers, pencils, and notebooks. We will also be giving students with ASB stickers a treat for being a well-prepared student should they buy supplies. As you may know, this month is Hispanic Heritage Month. Being planned at our school is a taco day, sombrero day, and a unique contest in which each student will dress up in Hispanic or any Hispanic heritage clothing that they may have, and the best dressed in the school will get a prize, small prize, candy. No. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you very much.
Now, you realize board members have a history of wanting to be invited to the dance. So is that still hold true this year, or are we invited to come to the dance? Of course. As long as we stay in the corner somewhere away from everybody? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Excellent, excellent presentation. Superintendent, you have anything else?
No, that's all. Just this, we can move to the staff reports. President Rodriguez and I will turn it over to Dr. Greenberg English. We have three academic staff reports, and then Elaine Nielsen will be presenting the 2011-12 unaudited actuals. So, Dr. Greenberg English.
Good evening. As many of you know, we've had summer school for many years, and some of you may know about the extended school year, but this past year we've also had something called First Five, and Debbie Ashmore is going to be telling you about it in a few minutes. First of all, I'm going to start out talking about the extended school year. We had classes this past year. Everything went very smoothly. And we had 5 classes at music, another one at Newark Junior High School, and then another one at Bridgepoint. And for those of you who do not know, all of our SDC students do not attend, but for those with special cognitive needs do attend, and the reason why is that we do not want them to regress, and so this is for the extended school year. And before I turn it over to Carolyn Scott and Nicole, I wanted to say just a couple of words. One of the things about summer school this past year that we wanted to ensure, ensure that we had more students finishing summer school and more students getting credit. And so one of the things, there were many things, and you're going to hear about them in a few minutes, that the staff did, but we also looked at, for the 4th of July, we made sure that the kids were off on Wednesday and Thursday, because we felt if they were just off on Wednesday, and then many would not come on Thursday, then they would miss too many days, and then they would not receive credit. So that's one of the things. And then, as I said, Debbie will talk with you in just a few minutes about the First Five. When we found out about the opportunity to have this in the district, this is something that I had at a prior district. Went and talked to Elaine. She had it at previous districts, so we were very gung-ho. Nicole, Debbie, Celeste, and I went and listened to a presentation. We liked what we heard. We went back, talked to executive cabinet, and then they made it work. Every time that I went over there, I said, Debbie had a big grin on her face. It wasn't just for music, it was also for the the other Title I schools in the district had the first priority. So next I'm going to turn it on over to Carolyn and Nicole. Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to respectfully request, if it's okay, that Debbie Ashmore go with her report first. We are waiting for high school students who should be here any minute to help us in our presentation about summer school, if that's okay with the board. Yes. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, and welcome back to school. And I tell you, Dr. Markin, I think that Ellen Pelicani is coming for your job. I don't know.
Let me get the keys.
I don't know what capacity he's going to serve, but I'm sure he's a future leader in Newark Unified School District. Good job, young man. I'm excited to present today the opportunity that Newark first delved into this past summer called First Five. Shall I continue? That concludes my report for today. Thank you very much for your time. So I'll talk a little bit while Liz is helping me here. It was an amazing opportunity. As Dr. Greenberg English specified, we met in late spring and we were able to create this opportunity for Newark students very quickly. In a matter of about 3.5 weeks, we were able to pull off a very successful, not just first effort, but overall effort for Newark Unified School District. Okay. So it was an amazing opportunity. It was specified that it needed to serve incoming kindergarten students with no previous preschool experience. And we know that this is an issue that is oftentimes found more rampantly in Title I schools. And so we opened up the opportunity to children in all 5 Title I schools across the district. We were able to offer 36 spots. There were 2 classrooms with 18 students in each classroom, and part of the contract was specified that there would be a preschool teacher and a kindergarten teacher in each classroom. So the ratio was 1 to 9 students, which was a fantastic intervention. We were able to keep the classes filled the entire summer, and we did have a waiting list, and we're hopeful that that means that next year we'll be able to grow the program even further. The program ran 5 weeks long, and in that was a parent education component, which I'll talk a little bit about. June 7th was our last day of school in Newark, and June 8th was the work day for the first 5 teachers and our staff day, and June 11th we began classes. And it was promising from the very beginning. We utilized the phone dialer system and got the cooperation, the wonderful cooperation of the 5 principals at our Title I sites and the 5 extraordinary office managers at the Title I sites to create phone lists so that we could then work with the superintendent's office and get an auto dialer message out. With 1 phone call and a few flyers, we were able to get a full house on the very first night of parent information. Wow. Clicker. Okay. Now it's just clicking on its own, which is fine. I'm going to go with this. There are 4 foundations of First 5, and one of them is promoting kindergarten academic awareness. This happens, I thought I'd tell the picture or the story through pictures as opposed to a lot of verbiage on each slide. But the teachers came in ready to work on letters, sounds, shapes, colors, and numbers. And we used a pre-assessment based on a portion of the kindergarten readiness assessment that all kindergartners take in the fall. We did this as a pre-assessment and a post-assessment. And teachers were able to really utilize direct-to-teacher instruction and then break that down into small group learning opportunities. There are 2 teachers And these two slides, one is Brandy Wex, who we were able to bring back to Newark Unified, and she's a kindergarten teacher this year at Snow School. And the preschool teacher in another classroom was Michaela Ashmore. Another academic or a foundation that First Five really regulates is learning routines through self-regulation and self-care. The kids have to learn everything. They have had no formal preschool experience, not to say that their parents haven't worked with them to get them ready for the concept of school, but without that experience, that firsthand experience of being in a classroom and knowing routines, there's a lot that our kindergarten teachers have to assume in the fall of every year. So we thought that this would be a wonderful bridging opportunity to allow some of those experiential opportunities to come about. The students do have to learn how to work independently, and then there are small group learning opportunities that abound. I think that speaking, I'm kind of going off script a little bit, but I was a teacher for 7 years at Snow School, a 6th grade teacher. And the following year, my 8th year, I decided to become a kindergarten teacher, and I transferred over to Bunker School. I'm in the system, so to speak. My whole background and my whole life's journey has been about education. That same year my daughter started kindergarten, I had no clue how to prepare her for kindergarten. So as I went to my back to school work days and I started meeting with the kindergarten staff, I went home and I tried all those things on her. But we don't have those opportunities very often, and I feel like I am in the know being part of a district system, and I was still not prepared to get my own child ready for that experience. So the First Five experience was valuable in many aspects. This picture kind of speaks for itself. These are kids from across the district. The 3 girls in the bottom picture are from music, Snow, and Graham. And the boys in the picture on the top right are from across 4 of our 5 Title I schools. These children came in not knowing each other at all. And through the experiences of the classroom and through the social and emotional development that the teachers were able to provide, these kids became friends that know each other from across the city now, but we're also able to group students in their classrooms so that they were with peers that they would be seeing in September. And actually August. The last piece, which I found very useful and quite exciting, was the parent education piece. There were 5 classes that our parents were required to attend. The topics included school readiness, literacy, and health and nutrition. And the parents learned how to be friends with each other and network with each other, just like the children were learning how to network with each other. I was the team lead on school readiness and literacy, and then we actually contracted out with Alameda County Office of Education and CalFresh to receive free health and nutrition classes. So we had more than 5 classes at First Five at Music Elementary School this past summer, and the parents came in great numbers to all of the classes and were quite eager how to take that information that they learned in those classes to help their children prepare. I saved a note from a parent that I'd like to share with you. Dear Principal Ashmore, words cannot explain how grateful that I am that my son was offered an important opportunity to be in Newark's First Five Transitional Summer Program. This program has helped my son academically, emotionally, and socially, and in addition, it has taught me how to help him be ready for his new school year. He has been coming home from school reciting his ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. He's been singing songs and memorizing nursery rhymes all summer long. And the most difficult part of the program, which was actually my part, was watching him become independent. I hope this opportunity continues to be offered to future parents and children, and that it receives the accepted dedication that it truly deserves. Mahalo. Any questions?
Member Crocker?
Yeah, can you tell me about the funding for this program?
I'm going to defer to Dr. Greenberg English. I know that it didn't impact our general fund at all, and that was actually monies received from the program.
It's a one-year program. We're hoping, they're hoping to get an extension and that we'll be able to have it again in the future, but it did not impact at all, and the funding came from First Five.
Can you give me the total cost, do you know?
Yeah. The grant was $20,000,
Okay.
and the majority of that was on staff and classroom. Mhm.
Good, thank you.
Member Thomas?
Well, I was just curious, did you have any English learner students, and did they, and could you say a little bit about the pre and post?
Sure. The pre and post were assessments that weren't the entire battery of tests that our kindergartners have to endure over the course of the school year, but they were really rooted in basic phonemic awareness, letter identification, letter sound, shapes, colors, and numbers, something that we would hope that a child entering kindergarten would have had exposure to. And what we found, there were many English learners in the program, and we had actually translation at all of our parent ed meetings because most of our parents that were parents of English learners also spoke only a second language. So we didn't have specific EL intervention because so much of that academic awareness and development at kindergarten and first grade overlaps with any EL intervention that we would specifically do with children. So it was building phonemic awareness and reading readiness through literacy and numbers.
So did these children, did all of them in the post-test meet what you'd hope they would be able to know and be able to do when they enter kindergarten?
We looked at all of the post-tests. Every student made growth. I can't tell you the quantifiable numbers of that growth, but every student made growth in their letter identification and numeracy. And then those tests, along with some notes about social awareness and emotional awareness, went to this year's kindergarten teachers.
Well, that could only help these children as they enter kindergarten and make it easier for their kindergarten teachers to assimilate them in the classroom. So
Absolutely.
It's a good program.
It is a fantastic program. Thank you.
Member Schaefer?
I really liked your example about people who are in the system, and even they wouldn't necessarily know what to do to prepare their own child. I really think that is really telling about how broad the need is, way beyond anything we can possibly imagine. I'm hoping that maybe something can be done to grow some program like this, even if we don't, I mean, this is like a small piece of it, and to be able to grow something like this, even if it's in conjunction with the city, so that we can support our community in a broader way in a program such as this. I really appreciate what you've done.
Thank you.
And only hope that we can make it bigger. Is this a federal, state, or grant, or what is the basis of it? Local grant.
I know that there were private funders, and funders included the Annenberg Foundation, people that have been around public education for many years that we're familiar with, but the funding is in danger of running out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
That it? Mrs. Ashmore, excellent presentation. I just had a question on how did we, or what method did we use to choose the students and the teachers that were going to participate in this program?
The teachers went through an interview process. The job was posted through our HR department. They went through an interview process like we would any classified or certificated employee. I sat on the interviews, but so did other members of educational services. And the students were selected really on a first-come, first-served basis because we were down to the wire. And it was from only our Title I schools, and the criteria that First Five made sure we had to abide by was no preschool experience.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
I wanted to add that the person, when they presented to us, misspoke about some funding, and we consistently and constantly reminded them, and so we got some additional money because we remembered.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Superintendent?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carolyn Scott, and I served as the principal of the summer school high school for the Newark Unified School District. And
good evening, Nicole Paredes. It was my pleasure to serve alongside Dr. Scott in the role of assistant principal for the Summer Intervention Academy.
we had a really good time this summer. We really had a good time. We employed around 11 teachers for teaching 3 English classes, 1 geometry, 1 algebra, earth science, biology, and we employed 2 high school teachers who taught independent study high school to approximately 25 students. Wonderful graduation, by the way. Thank you for coming. We employed 3 monitors, and of course, principal and vice principal, and an office manager. Terrific people to work with. And I think that's why it rolled so smoothly. So to begin with, as you see, here are some of our students studying hard. This group of students were particularly focused. They knew that this was their opportunity to recover credits, and they took it very seriously, thank goodness. And we reinforced that. Let's go on to attendance. The population we started out with was approximately 409 students. We decreased that because 4 students were suspended. 23 students did not complete the summer school program due to personal reasons. And we ended up with 376 students. And the reasons were valid. The 4 students who were suspended should have been suspended and not allowed to return. Yes.
And one of the things that we did this year to maintain positive attendance is that we implemented a few very specific strategies. We tracked student attendance daily, and by that I mean we pulled up in the system students who at the end of that day were at risk because of absences or tardies of being dropped from the program, and before they had that one last allowed absence or that one last allowed tardy, they were called in for an individual conference, and I spoke with them. Dr. Scott and I both spoke with them, and then we followed up with phone calls to parents to let the parents know that the child, or the student rather, was at risk of being dropped if there was one more absence or one more tardy. So we did that daily.
First, before she does the highlights, the other thing that was real important that we did was we encouraged them to succeed. This was a 4-week program, 4 days a week, starting at 8 o'clock. You know, this is so far back. I just have to remember all this. This is so weird that I have to do this. It's way back in my mind. So, and we finished around 11:30, whatever, yeah, 12:30. And the students were motivated because they knew there was an end to it. And we encouraged that. We tried to provide them with as much support when they were there as possible through our counseling and through the teachers building relationships with them, not just instruction, but actually building relationships with them to let them know they're going to make it and we're going to encourage them to make it.
So we asked every student to complete a survey for us. It was very brief and basically encompassed some main areas. What worked positively for you during summer school, what was challenging about summer school. On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being excellent, rate how well the staff did to provide a positive and safe learning environment and tell us why. And then we asked them some questions to get their feedback about the best start time for summer school and any suggestions for improvement. And I'm happy to share that for the things that went positively, And I pulled a few quotes from the surveys. The students were appreciative, and one said it was a positive that they got a second chance, that they recovered their credits, passed my class. The teacher really helped me out, and I understood more things that I didn't get in the past, were some of the quotes from the positives. The challenges, not surprisingly, overwhelmingly, the challenge listed was waking up early and being on time. A few other comments included the classes felt long. They were in the same class for 2 hours at a time. And one comment was classwork was sometimes difficult, but I got through it. In terms of the safe learning environment, students overwhelmingly gave a rating of a 4 or a 5. We had a handful of students who rated us as a 3 for the learning environment. But overwhelmingly, the vast majority were 4s and 5s. And some of the direct quotes and reasons given were, everyone was nice and respectful, it was calm and no fighting, no fights, no problems, learning was on track without distraction. All staff made me feel safe to learn in this environment. I had a great teacher and the staff did a great job of keeping us safe. So we were pleased with the results of the student survey, particularly in those areas, and they had some really great suggestions for ways to improve.
Okay, so the other thing was that she probably already mentioned was the safe learning environment was very, very clear. Every student felt safe. And when we found out through the grapevine if things were going to happen, we dealt with it early. We had a strong supportive staff. The 3 monitors were on track. They had the pulse of the campus. I felt we had a strong administrative leadership. The presence of 2 administrators and teachers who were familiar with the students made a big difference because I knew most of the students from the high school. And I encouraged them to attend summer school. At lunch, we had music in the quad, so we kind of focused on music that was positive and moving. We had relevant and engaging instructional strategies. You'll see in some of the pictures. And the food was free. So we had actually people from the community coming on campus and eating lunch as well. This is an instructional strategy out of the math class. Oh, they had a good time.
Yeah. Doing group work.
There was a countdown system so that they knew when the end would be there, what time it would be ending, so they were encouraged. And these were the recommendations that, as a staff, we came up with. 1, offer additional subjects such as PE. Chemistry, we couldn't find a chemistry teacher, and there were a lot of students who needed chemistry, and electives. Offer more appealing food choices. There was certain foods that they would eat, but they only would offer it certain days. A possible later start for school, maybe.
Well, there were all kinds of ideas about that.
You know, I didn't mention that I did mention it was for Newark Unified School District students. That included Bridgepoint was there, a high school was there, Independent Study High School was there. Everybody was there, and there were no problems. It was just amazing. And because of that, I felt like there was a need for more counseling, not just academic, but emotional counseling. I didn't realize until later that these students didn't come from the same school. So I felt they needed something more. Plan for summer school beginning early fall throughout the year. I think we should start a lot earlier, maybe now for next summer. I just saw so many things. We saw so many things that could have been done if we had started earlier. And provide a custodian for summer school hours. We really didn't have that because they were going from school to school, I think, in the summer, which that's what happened. Okay. That's it? Oh, okay, any questions? I'm sorry the students didn't show up because I told them 7:30. I thought the meeting started at 7:30. So they're doing homework.
They're doing homework, absolutely.
Any questions for us? Thank you.
No, hold on, don't go away. Member Crocker.
I think the later start is right on. The studies they have, teenagers really need to have it, I think, in the summer. So, assuming that they will not have a job, I think getting them out by 12:30 is fine, if for the ones that are going to work, but it might well be a good thing to do to start it at 8 o'clock. What time did you start?
8 o'clock.
Oh, then
What was
8:30 or
interesting,
9.
what was interesting about asking the kids that on the survey is that many of them said a later start time. However, many of them said the same start time because they liked being out at the time they were out. They did identify getting there early and being on time as a challenge, but as you can see, based on how many completed the program, they were able to do it. But I think there's opportunity to explore various schedules. It would take some creativity and planning, but I think there's possibilities there.
Right.
Member Schaefer.
It's commendable that you actively pursued the attendance. I think that's really a critical aspect of being successful in that kind of program. I have a question on the threes. Did you get any feedback on those for the safe community?
You know, not specific feedback. Most of the threes, and there were just a handful, they wrote things like, it was all right, it was good,
So it's pretty
but
vague.
there was no specific suggestion, because I was trying to pull that, but they were pretty vague.
right.
So I think we can maybe ask the question a little bit more next
specifically.
year, yeah.
Great.
I think they thought we were very strict. I really do. I think they thought we were very strict in our rules, but we meant what we said. And so when they had to actually complete the survey, you know, they kind of felt like we were strict.
Oh, well.
One quote that I remember, but it wasn't with a 3, somebody put, sometimes I felt we were on lockdown. But that could be an okay thing,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So if it caused them to feel safe and everybody knew where they were supposed to be. But
Right.
no, there weren't specifics that I could really capture. They were very vague for the
All right.
3s.
All right, thank you.
You guys make an awesome team.
We had a great time. We are a good team. She knows them from the high school, and I remember them from when they were young.
We worked that like that, didn't we?
I just had a quick question. Could you share with us on the seniors? Because we went to the graduation that we had, that you put together, and that was awesome, by the way. But how was that received? Because I know there was a number of them that needed the credits in order to get a diploma. And could you share a little bit about just the seniors, if you don't mind?
Yeah, there were 25 students, seniors, who were short 10 credits or less from graduating with their high school class. So 2 independent study teachers provided them with the subject matters that they were short in. And they were able to complete within the 4-week period. I think they worked actually more than 4 days a week. The teachers did, just to get those hours in and get those assignments back and corrected on time enough to graduate on July 17th. That's pretty good. July 17th. The students were on board to actually graduate from the high school, but because of one thing or the other, I think it was their June transcript, they did not pass a class. And so they all were forwarded to the 2 independent study teachers who provided those subjects, and they made it. Oh, they were located at the Bridgepoint, actually at the, on Bridgepoint campus at the Independent Study High School in a classroom. And they actually came to the class and stayed most of the day and did their work there. Took some home, but they were mostly on the campus. We visited a couple of times to make sure things were going okay. It was very smooth.
Now, you mentioned counseling. Ms. Torres was involved in the summer program, wasn't she?
No, she was not.
Okay. And so for next year, you're hoping to get that piece in?
I'm hoping even to the point if even we can get an intern. We had 2 interns scheduled to be there, but unfortunately it fell through and they couldn't drive so far. I'm hoping if we plan early, I know we can get some interns to come in the summer.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, both of you, excellent. And you do make a good team. You ought to go on the road.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Market.
Thank you. Now we go to the unaudited actuals, and our Chief Business Official, Elaine Nielsen, will actually be presenting the unaudited actuals from here, not because she's lazy, but she just had foot surgery. Her crutches are to her side, and her foot is elevated under the dais, so this is actually her first day back. So she will be reporting and running the PowerPoint from here, so I will turn it over to her. Elaine.
Are we not doing the extended school year or an early back or just?
That was the first, that was just the preview report for the summer intervention and first five.
Oh, okay, because I thought this was that whole thing you were going to talk about. With this.
No.
Oh.
It was all of it, and then the early back piece, Nicole is going to be doing that during her
The early-
spotlight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
I just assumed this was your. Big,
Got it.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Mrs. Nielsen.
Oh, thank you, and I do appreciating you letting me sit here for a little while. I want to acknowledge the hard work of the business department and our Director of Finance, Noreen Bastian. Without their support in closing the books this summer, we would have been delayed. But with all of their hard work through all of our craziness over this summer, we are very proud to present the unaudited actuals for 11-12. This is the only time that the board looks at actual numbers. During the year, we present the budget, what we're planning on spending. But this is the only time that we look on and see what we actually have spent. We look at the enrollment. We look at what was projected in the budget versus what the actual was. And you can see that this last year in 11-12, what we projected was 6,500, and our actual was 6,562. We were up about 62 students. And I'm very anxious to see what the actual will be for this current fiscal year, and that will be the first Wednesday in October when we'll take that number. We also look at the average daily attendance of the school. The majority of our money is based on the average daily attendance, and with a 97.10% is a very good attendance rate for any school district. Then we also look at our revenue limit deficit. This is the money that is not coming from the state of California. This is where we're looking at the amount the state doesn't do. And for 11-12, it was just over basically 21 cents per student. Or, for every dollar it was minus 21 cents. For 12-13, we're looking at 22.5 cents, basically, on what's not going to come. And this is if the bond measure passes, or the measure 30, Proposition 30 passes. If it doesn't, that will go down probably, they estimate, between 4.5% and 5% additional. So that will mean instead of getting our dollar, we're going to be looking right around 74, 75 cents instead of the dollar. Then we take a look at what our actual revenues are and how they come in. You can see the revenue limit sources, which is based on our ADA, our average daily attendance, you can see is 64% of our budget. But then if you notice the green, the other state revenue, that's 19%. And you add those two together, and you're looking at 84% of our budget comes from the state of California, with the federal government at 8%. We are tied in very heavily with the state on the funding, and that's why it's going to be important for the November election. Then we look at the actual expenditures, and we look at salaries and benefits. And you look at the salaries at 67.36% and over 15% in the benefits. And again, we're looking at 83% that is tied in with just our employees. And a different way of looking at expenditures is what we call by function. And this will go, 61% is direct instruction, with another almost 13% in instructional services. The instructional services would be like the support from Ed Services, the school admin offices, things like that, that are at the school sites that directly do different services. Pupil services would, it's the 3,000s, I'm drawing a blank there on what it is, but again, it's related to, oh, counseling, thank you. Counseling is one of it, psychological services, your speech and pathology is all in there. So these are all related to instructions. The general administration is less than 6%, which is marvelous. The other districts that I've seen have been up about 8%. So that's where the district office would be, and you can see how we have cut back quite a bit on all of that. So it's just a different way of looking at your expenditures. Okay, this is in thousands, and we're looking at contributions. These are the ones where the revenue it doesn't keep up with our expenditures. Our expenditures are more than the revenue. And your largest one that you see there is special education. Now, when we estimated the budget in June, we thought it would be close to $3 million, a little over $3 million. It came in at $2,877,000, which is where you will, which is very good. And the transportation also, we were a little bit high on what we thought the transportation costs. So it's very, very good on there, where we had, our estimates were right in line. But you can see where we saved almost, or a little over, almost 300,000. And then we'll look at the total revenues with the interfunds coming in and your expenditures and the interfunds transfers going out. And the revenue came in pretty close. We estimated it to be 53,000 or 53,303,000, and it came in at 53,264,000. The expenditures, we estimated they would be 53,441,000. They actually came in at 50,624,000, which is just extremely surprising. Where we received most of this savings was in supplies and services. And it was a very nice surprise for all of us, because we had been looking at the encumbrances or the open purchase orders, and the purchase orders were written for more than what we eventually ended up paying. So it caused a net increase in our fund balance of $2,637,000. You add that with the beginning fund balance to calculate the ending fund balance at $7,586,000. I was extremely pleased on finding out this information. Then we look at the ending, the components of the ending balance, that $7,586,000. And you'll see that we have $1,519,000 that is our 3% that we have, that we're required to have by the state of California. And then we have a small reserve for the revolving cash and the reserve for the stores. That's what's in our warehouse at the end of the fiscal year. And then we have some legally restricted balances, and these are state entitlements that we have received that fall into the ending balance. The other designations, the $2.8 million that you see there, is what I've estimated will be what we need if Proposition 30 does not pass. We will need the 2.8 for this year. And so that would leave us an undesignated fund balance of $2,327,000. Now, if we go on to the adopted budget where we have the, if I go back, you can see on the, if you look at the revenues and then the expenditures for the adopted budgets for 12-13, and you go down to the net increase, decrease in the fund balance, we have, are going to be spending more money than we will probably be collecting this year for about $2 million. And so if we go on and look at the ending balance for 12-13 of the $5,551,000, again, you'll see our reserve that's required in the small amounts. But you'll also see that if the measure does not pass, we're going to need another 2,800 next year. And so it would bring our undesignated down to the 200,000. And then we have some other funds, small ones. You'll find adult education, child development, child nutrition, deferred maintenance. The special reserve, Fund 21 is the building fund, or this is where we will see the bond fund that Measure G for the $15 million that we just did in July. Fund 25 is capital facilities, or it's usually called developer fee fund. And you can see we have small amounts there. The special reserve in Fund 40 is down. And then we have the bond interest and redemption. This is where this fund holds the property tax that is paid by the property owners. That's what the revenue is. The expenditures are to redeem and pay the interest on the outstanding bonds. And then we have self-insurance fund for retirement and property and liability. Going forward, the November 2012 election is going to be playing a large portion of what we're having to do with this next fiscal year. And we will be looking at that during the first interim report, which will be brought to you in the first meeting in December. And then that will continue on as we do the budget development for 13-14. And do you have any questions?
Before we go to questions, thank you, Mrs. Nielsen, for an excellent report. This item is on for new business under A, acceptance of the 2011-2012 unaudited actuals.
That's correct.
Okay.
You'll take formal action at
Right.
that time.
Does the board want to wait and ask questions? Then I don't know because of your surgery,
I'm
if you
fine.
want to stay that long,
I'm fine.
because I can ask the board to move it up if you want.
No, I'm
Okay.
fine.
I'd rather ask questions while the presentation is
Sure.
fresh in our mind.
Okay, that's fine.
That's just my prerogative.
Okay. Mrs. Parks, did you want to come up now or wait till it's on a new business where we're going to vote on it? Okay, great. Thank you. Member Menzinger?
Yes. Actually, a very positive report, so it was, and as a fairly geeky person, I actually enjoyed reading it and was pleasantly surprised. But I do have a couple of questions. You mentioned the G&A. You said that's district office, but does G&A include all administrative folks like, school secretaries, things like that as well?
No, the school secretaries is under the instructional support, the school sites.
Okay, so G&A really is just the district office then?
Yes, it's the budget or the expenditures for the board and their portion of it, the superintendent's office, my office, HR, IT, all of.
Yes. Yeah, typical G&A stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
On the expenditure side, while we had about a $2.6 million good guy there, what concerns me is anytime, budgets are always, very difficult, right? If you spend too much, you get beat up. If you don't spend enough, you get beat up. Okay, so either way, you get beat up on this. So it's good that you have a bad foot, because then it maybe evens it up for me a little bit. So, but okay, so we had about a $2.7 million that we didn't spend on the supply side. But in actuality, that comes back to money that we didn't spend in classrooms, money that we didn't spend on things that we could have spent on those.
Correct.
So now that you've seen some of the issues which led to this, I mean, obviously it can never be exactly zero, with the differences. But you don't want to see a big number either, because that's numbers that we didn't spend on kids or teachers and classrooms and stuff. So what did we learn from that so next year we don't end up with, we don't obviously overshoot our budget, but we don't come up with such a big number either?
Well, I'll be taking a closer look at what we're doing on our estimates on purchase orders, and seeing if they're really overstated or understated a little bit closer. I noticed that a lot of it they'll copy from one year to the next, not looking to copying a purchase order from one year to the next fiscal year, and they don't really look at what they've spent on that purchase order, whether it needs to be adjusted.
I see.
But I would imagine when I go through the first interim, I will be taking a look and discussing an e-cabinet and bringing some recommendations forward to maybe adjust some of those budgets.
Okay, fine. I just have two more real quick questions. One should be very quick, so I'll go with that one first. The election that we had budgeted money for, that now we don't have to pay for, because there's no election. About how much was that? Was that about 100 grand or something in there?
No, I think it was about 40,000.
Okay, all right. So we saved 40 grand. Okay, that's good. The other question, the last question I had was under adult ed, we had about a $92,000 deficit on that. And as you recall, I mean, you weren't here, but I'm sure you heard about it. The board had cut the adult education program. And then I guess we brought it back which is okay, but it was supposed to be cost neutral, and that was about a 33% overrun or more. And I'm just wondering, you know, what are we doing in regards to that? I mean, I realize we had a 12-month employee that was supposed to be a 10-month employee, and that didn't happen, but that's not, I mean, that doesn't make up $92,000. If it does, I want that job.
No. No, it didn't. What we did when we adopted the budget was, we looked at the principal at the McGregor site, because he's over 3 different programs. And then we adjusted it more to the percentage he was working in adult ed and charged more to the other programs. So we're...
Well, that should be less than more, though.
Yeah, but that's going to, when we look at this year, the or for 12-13, I did take a look at the adult ed, but there's probably some more fine tuning that we need to do.
Yeah, because that does concern me a little bit when, you know, you budget 101,000, it comes back 193,000. That's quite, that's a big oops. And so, especially for a program that the board had thought, you know, it then staff's recommendation, obviously, the recommendation has changed, but to cut the program. So then we not only brought it back, but it's supposed to be cost neutral. Now it's, you know, it missed by, like I said, 33%, which is a fairly sizable.
Yeah. The budget was established before I got here.
Oh, no.
You know, so a lot of it for this year I inherited from the previous budget. But going forward, we'll take a more in-depth look at adult ed and child nutrition, or child development. Child nutrition is doing great.
Yeah, they're doing very well.
Kudos to them. That's a marvelous program they're running.
Yeah, there's a lot of efficiency, no doubt, and it shows here a lot of efficiencies. You know, when there's a little bit here and there, I mean, that's budget, that's in the budgeting process.
But you have to remember, when you look at the account numbers, we have over 20,000 account numbers on, that's in our accounting system. So you know, all it takes is a couple hundred here times your 20,000, and you're going to get to 2 million pretty quick.
Maybe that's a job for you on your, you know, when you're doing nothing.
When yeah.
When you have nothing to do.
No, actually, that's Noreen's job.
When Noreen's doing nothing. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Schaefer, then Member Thomas, and then Member Crocker.
I know that Mr. Bensinger already asked about the GNA, but instructional services, is there some overlap in that area also?
Instructional services, it's, there's, the libraries are included in that. You've got the site office staff in there. Ed services is in there. This is supporting the instruction that goes on.
So it's separated from the rest of the general administration.
Right. A lot of the staff development will be there. A lot of your costs for staff development will be there.
I was wondering, is there any sign that MA implementation was reflected in this? I know we were going to be working on that this year.
There was not as much as budget in there, but we had other areas that went over, so the MA was limited in this fiscal year, but we're hoping to bring it back strong for 12-13.
So there's a plan for that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ma.
Let's see, what does MA stand for?
Medical.
Administrative.
Yes.
It was supposed to be a plan to bring in more monies into the district?
That would be unrestricted.
Oh, right.
So you'll be watching for that this coming year, right?
Right. But the federal government goes up and down on what the regulations are. So one year you can get a windfall, and the next year you'll get peanuts. I mean, it's just that much on what the federal government decides they're going to do.
I know they got a huge amount next door, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
I mean, in
it is
the
a good-
millions.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a very good program
Mhm.
that I'm hoping that we can take more advantage of this year.
Okay, thank you. Member Thomas?
Speaking of does that mean that we paid for a contract to get money, right? Did we get less money than the contract cost?
The contract is based on how much is collected, or how much is given us. So they get a certain percentage.
Okay, so we didn't have to pay more for the
No.
entire contract?
No, it's written on a percentage.
Okay, and then, since books and supplies, we had kind of put that was one of the areas that we swept.
Mhm.
And yet we do have a lot left in that budget. Was any thought, or is any thought given to adopt Math 4-6 textbooks in Math 4-6? We did a K-3 adoption, and we didn't do a 4-6 adoption.
We haven't discussed that in E-Cabinet, but that could be something that could be done.
Okay, because I think that would be important to look into as money in that bucket is available or not spent.
Right,
you know?
and when we're looking at something like that, that's a one-time use that is a good use for the ending balance, because it's whatever falls into the ending balance, that 7,000,005, that, you can only use that once. So we can't use it for ongoing costs, but for a textbook adoption, that would be a very good use.
And when we, this getting back maybe to adult education, when we have someone paid out of a categorical program, is that a temporary position?
Well, it was until this spring, when a lawsuit was settled with Stockton Unified, and they are no longer classified as temporaries. They are permanent. And so we can't consider them temporary employees just because they're paid by categorical. And that was a lawsuit that was settled this spring. So.
Okay, but is it a position in a categorical program, even though it's not temporary, belongs in that position? Otherwise, does it have to come to the board for approval if it's no longer, if it's moved?
We would have to come forward and, what's the word, Tim? To release the position, and that would be with board action.
Okay, then I'll ask the question at a request. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Crocker?
Thank you. I'm looking at the general fund in thousands on page 9, and there's something like $2.5 million less in expenditures. Why is there that much less coming in or projected to come in?
Right. That was in our supplies and services, where I know there was a lot of purchase orders that were created at the beginning of last fiscal year. And I'm looking specifically, I'm thinking of special ed, where they had done contracts for MPS students, and then those students didn't materialize, but they did not go back and cancel the PO. So we're thinking all along that money will be spent when it actually wasn't.
But you've selected or indicated the fact that there'll be $50,716,000 in revenue, which is almost $2.5 million less than the revenue that we got this last year. Why is there a drop in that?
A lot of that was the carryover of the ed jobs money.
Okay.
It's $1.3 million that we do not have, or $1.6 million that we don't have this year coming in as revenue.
Okay. Look at my notes here. When we talk in terms of Fund 67, retirement benefits, there's been a lot of talk about the fact that we have this liability. Where are we as far as that goes, the liability for our retirement?
Basically, right
benefits?
now, we're doing pay-as-you-go for the majority of it. We're probably putting, I did a analysis of it today, and I would say that for June and July, we put an additional $22,000 in that bucket. But I have to, and it will be more going forward because that's based on a percentage of our gross wages. So that will increase. So we're putting more aside, but it's not as much as we're paying out.
Oh, it isn't. So we're paying out plus putting some aside?
We're paying out the current, and
Right.
plus we're doing a little, probably I would say $12,000 to $18,000 a month.
A month, that's putting, okay.
We're
That's sort of a
putting it
saving
aside.
for future liabilities.
Right.
The budget is based upon 30 not passing?
The budget is based on Proposition 30 passing.
Passing, okay. So if 30 doesn't pass, where are we?
2.8.
Well, the revenue will go down by $2.8 million.
Okay, so that comes out of our fund that we have there. And then at
Right.
that point, I guess a 3-year budget would be,
Yes.
need to be adjusted to.
Right. We will be adjusting that. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that
Oh, yeah.
Prop 30 passes. It's crucial to a lot of school districts.
Okay, you have any more questions?
That takes care of it, thank you.
Okay, Member Mensinger,
Just a very quick one.
okay, because we're close to 8:30 for the public comment. Go ahead.
Okay, you mentioned 30, but 30 and 38 are on the ballot, and they both have clauses that say if they get the most votes, they take precedence.
Right.
Whichever one gets the most votes takes precedence. So
Right.
is the 2.8 the worst case? Is that why you put it in the?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, I have a question, but I'll save it to new business A, okay. Okay, with that, we need to go to, because it's real close to 8:30, to item number 14, public comment on non-agenda items. Vice President Crocker, do we have anybody?
Yes, we have one person that would like to speak, Ms. Parks.
Ms. Parks, you want to come up? Good evening.
Hi, welcome back. You may tear up my sheet for the other item.
Okay.
Oh,
As the board members addressed my concerns
Okay.
regarding adult ed, I have the same concerns.
excellent, thank you.
I hate getting up here. Oh, and to correct the Newark days, actually, they don't go the 22nd and the 23rd, they start on the 20th. I have to do my due diligence there because I hear from Lori. I hear from Lori, I'm sure. When you Google or YouTube Newark Memorial High School, many of the headlines and videos are very alarming. In Dr. Markin's Welcome Back presentation, he highlighted the staggering dropout rate in Newark. Based on all the verbal gasps from those in attendance, many were shocked. Chaos reigned again this year when class schedules were handed out. Students placed in the wrong classes, overcrowded classrooms, and incomplete schedules. In previous years, scheduling done by new staff or the reduction in school counselors was the excuses. This year, I heard 100 extra students. In the Newark Memorial Handbook under Student Adjustments, it states that one of the major functions of public schools is the preparation of youth for responsible citizenship. Newark Memorial High School shall foster a learning environment that enforces the concepts of self-discipline and the acceptance of personal responsibility. In order to maintain an environment conducive to attaining the highest quality of education, there must exist certain disciplinary policies and regulations regarding or relating to student conduct, which delineate acceptable behavior and provide the basis for sound disciplinary practices within the school. Sounds great, but my contention is it's not practiced. And what's that old adage? Don't come with a complaint if you don't offer a solution. Here's my solution. Immediately have pupil services identify the students who are currently enrolled at Newark Memorial High School and are credit deficient, not adhering to the disciplinary policies and regulations relating to student conduct, having irregular attendance or habitual truants. Placing them at the Bridgepoint Alternative High School, a campus that is capable of handling a population of at least 120 students, but only had 63 students enrolled on the first day of school. By placing these students in an alternative environment, they can receive, as Bridgepoint website states, a variety of alternative and educational opportunities necessary for students to acquire knowledge and skills in a safe, disciplined, and supportive environment. Develop the values of responsibility and respect for oneself, which leads to productive citizenship and a lifelong learning, and opportunities to correct academic deficiencies, improve attendance, improve behavior, and encourage career paths. Allow Bridgepoint to cater to its audience, an alternative school whose vision is to meet the unique personal and educational needs of each student based on the belief that every student can be successful in an academic setting. I don't think I even have to list the benefits to the staff and students at Newark Memorial High School, but I will. More focused instruction with less interruptions, administrators who spend less time dealing with disciplinary issues and who are able to provide support and supervision in the other areas noted in their job description. From the district's own goals, a safe and nurturing environment that promotes the social, emotional, physical, and intellectual health and growth of every student and every adult. And had this been done prior to the first day of school, there would have been less overcrowding issues, reducing the cost burden this necessitates, and most of all, less interruptions in classroom instruction. Students assigned to the correct campus, I believe, will contribute to less behavioral issues at our comprehensive campus and decrease the dropout rate district-wide, and supports the district mission statement that Newark Public Schools inspire and educate all students to achieve their full potential and be responsible, respectful, productive citizens. And to quote part of Bridgepoint's vision statement, keeping students in school and encouraging all students to graduate. And isn't that the ultimate goal? To have each student receive the diploma certifying that they have satisfactorily completed their high school education? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Bradford Crocker?
No,
Anybody
I'm
else?
sorry, that's it.
That's it? Okay, with that, we move to public hearings. I'd like to open the public hearing. A, speech pathology and audiology waiver for Sherry Mascacero. Member Crocker, can you read the narrative on it for me, if you don't mind?
Certainly. I'm sorry, I need to get back to there. Ms. Mascacero has completed all the requirements to receive her master's degree in speech pathology and audiology from California State University, East Bay. A waiver is required to allow Ms. Mascacero to start the year while her speech pathology and audiology credential is being processed.
Would anyone like to address the board on this public hearing? Okay, seeing none, we close the public hearing. We move to consent. Thank you, Member Crocker. We move to consent agenda, item A, personnel items.
Move to approve items A1 and A2.
Okay, can we do it separately if you don't mind?
I suppose. Then move to approve item A1.
A1, personnel report. Okay.
I'll second that.
Need a motion? Member Menziger makes a motion, Member Crocker seconds. Please vote. Okay, the item passes unanimously. Item A2, need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Member Schaefer
Second.
moves. Member
Second.
Thomas seconds. Please vote. Okay, item passes unanimously, 5 ayes. Okay, non-personnel items, B. Item B1, Kidango lease agreement. Item B2, resolution number 1895, resolution for adopting the GAN limit. Item B3, resolution supporting Proposition 30, which is the Schools and Local Public Safety Protection Act, and Proposition 38, which is Our Children, Our Future, Local Schools and Early Education Investment Act.
Just a question before, is there something different about B3?
Yes.
Would anybody like to pull any of these items for discussion?
I'd like to pull B1.
B1?
Then I'd like to pull B3.
B3, Member Metzinger?
Like to move approval on B2.
Huh?
Like to move approval on B2.
Okay,
Second.
Member Schaefer moves approval on B2. Need a second? Member Metzinger, please vote.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Okay, motion passes 5 ayes. B1, Member Thomas?
I'd like to recuse myself and leave the room while you vote on this issue. I'm a member of the board of Cadango, and even though there's no money or anything that would accrue to me by this lease agreement, I just want to avoid any appearance of conflict of interest.
I don't think you need to leave the room, but if that's what you want to do, that's fine. Just recuse
If you're going to
yourself.
Starbucks, can you?
We might never get you back once you leave.
I think I should leave.
Okay. Okay, discussion on B1.
Just had a quick question.
Okay.
I couldn't too.
Was staff able to check the rent agreements for other districts to see if our, what is, as we talked about last time, the rent seemed low to me, but I just wanted to compare it against other districts, and I was just wondering if it was comparable to other districts in the rent that they pay for other.
Yes, I do know in Dublin Unified that they were paying less than this per month.
Well, more is good.
Yeah, more is good, so, but I did know that from my previous districts.
Okay, okay.
Okay, Member Crocker?
I stopped by and got the listing from Laura, the listing of what the charges are per hour. And so I've got that copy for you. And I was wondering, what was the basis of making a decision on the $5-some thousand per month for the facilities? They've got 4 items, four rooms, and then they have custodial and utilities included in that.
What this agreement, it extends their existing agreement for 1 year.
Right.
And their funding also has been cut from the state. So I don't believe they could pay much more than what they were paying last in 11-12.
No, I'm fine with that. I just wanted to make this, I didn't sit down and figure out if you were doing it, I'm not sure how many hours a day you figured went into the cost or what you figured the cost for the facilities that they're using. And I understand this was something that was set up before you came.
Right, and I just extended it for another year so that we would have more time to look at maybe getting a lease agreement that would be more advantageous to the district. Okay. But I would need this year to make sure that I had everything researched well.
Do you have the total amount that the McGregor leases bring into the district? Do you have that total amount that's?
For McGregor?
I mean Russian.
I'm sorry, Russian.
Russian.
Thank you, I'm sorry, Russian.
Not off the top of my head, I'm sorry, I don't.
Because there's Love and there's.
And there's the church.
Cadango and then there's the church, yeah.
And the other thing I would just add to that are all of the leases are up in June of 2013, and one of the things that staff will be bringing to the board is some alternatives and ideas on what to do with that site. It is really a 40 or 50-year-old site that, quite frankly, has been untouched. And so the rent we are getting is the rent we are getting.
Okay.
If that makes sense without saying much more. So the board will need to make a decision on that within this next year as we look at either renewing those leases or doing something with that property.
Just one quick question.
Member Metzinger?
Yeah, sorry, just one quick question. They're up to date on other payments. There's nothing in the rears with them?
They are up to date.
Yay.
Yeah, go for
All
it.
right.
I move acceptance.
Second.
I have a motion by Member Crocker, second by Member Metzinger. I have a question.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, it's perfectly okay. Mrs. Nielsen, it's like a wraparound lease where it includes everything? We don't have a breakdown on the base charge without, because we normally want to make sure that we get enough money to cover our costs for custodial and all that. This is all in one. Instead of being broken down, it's all.
It's all in one, but I did a cost analysis for Candango, and we're not making a whole bunch of money, but they are covering the costs of the custodial.
Okay, so this will take it to 2013?
Yes, June of 2013.
Now, remember Menzinger asked a question as far as what they're paying in other areas. Was that Dublin is what you know, as far as, because they're in Fremont and in other areas.
They're
Just about everywhere,
just
right?
about every place here in
Yeah, they
Alameda
are.
County.
You got 23
But
spots.
Candango, in some places they're called Head Starts.
Right.
And I can go to other districts that I've been in, two other districts besides Dublin, and this was in line with what they had paid.
No, that's great. They, we're, on a personal level, I'm happy of our partnership with Candango. And at some point, and I'll talk to Dr. Morgan on this, there was discussion in the past about them actually expanding and doing more in Newark. So, okay, with that, we have a motion and a second. Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Please vote.
Mrs. Thomas is abstaining, and, okay, good.
Okay, the motion passes 4 ayes with Member Thomas abstaining because she's a member of the board of Candango. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Nielsen. Resolution B3, Member Menzinger.
Yeah, I do have some questions, but first of all, since this is new, shouldn't this be revised, or if there was a change?
There's no substance change.
Okay, so then, help me out, what was the change?
The fourth whereas, it said include a list, and there was no list of the cuts. And so I had asked that they make sure that they either eliminate saying there's a list of cuts, or to put something in that indicates the severity that we've had to go through.
And so what we did is we put the $19+ million versus trying to enumerate every single one and then missing one and then having that amended and on and on. So we thought, let's just consider it that amount.
Okay. So, and I probably should have let you know this ahead of time. I somehow whiffed on this, so I apologize in advance. But I'm a little bit concerned we have 30 and 38. I understand that we'd like both to pass, but we do prefer one over the other. And so it doesn't really say that. And again, if both pass, we don't get twice the money, which would be great. We get the one that has the most votes.
Correct.
And so should we be more clear in stating which one we prefer? Because when reading this, it just looks like, let's go for both of them and we get paid. And you could almost read in this that, the district, if both pass, then we get 2 times the amount of money. And that's really not the case. So I'm just wondering if, and it's not that big of a deal because it's just us throwing our endorsement behind these. But the question is, do we feel more strongly about one than the other? I think the answer is yes, but if that's the case, then shouldn't we say that?
Okay. Member Thomas, you're the one that sent us the template on this.
Yeah, this is what CSBA, California School Boards Association, is recommending that school districts do, that we support both of them. And of course, we hope that one of them wins. And if both of them win, the one with the most votes will take effect. So I think this is something that people ought to know, that both of these propositions bring more money into the schools, very badly needed money. So my purpose in bringing it forward was based on my being part of the California School Boards Assembly, School Boards Association Delegate Assembly, and based on their due diligence and recommendation.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you doing that, by the way.
I don't think you answered my question, though.
I don't have, well, I may have a personal preference. You know, Prop 38 is going to bring more money than Prop 30, but Prop 30 is going to support community colleges, which Prop 38 doesn't do. I mean, we could go and study this and decide which one, you know, we want to support, but I think supporting both of them is a safe bet right now, and then that doesn't prevent any of us from personally lobbying and campaigning on our own time for one or the other of them.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm agnostic on it. I just brought this up as a, as a question, given that, there are two, and assuming both pass, one is going to take precedent over the other, and did we have? And actually, I thought it was the other way around, so I just learned something. I thought 30 brought in more money to the schools than 38. But, however it turns out.
The League of Women Voters is having a series of information things on this to discuss the difference between the two, so it might be. I can't tell you what it is. I wrote down something about San Lorenzo or San Leandro being placed, but I think if you hit League of Women Voters or LWV, you'll find someplace where they might give you that kind of an answer.
Well, the cleanest certainly is Proposition 30. It's a little simpler and straightforward. You know what you're getting. There are some nuances and some issues with 38 of which none of us know yet. Whether they be considered strings, we're not exactly 100% sure. I think, and I don't know if this is your concern, Member Mensinger, but one of the things that we hope is that they don't cancel each other out.
Yeah.
Because when you've got two and quite frankly, I will say right now, the tracking is not going extremely well, given the fact that the state just uncovered multiple millions of dollars in a few different shoeboxes up at the state capitol. So that has not gone well. But there is a concern, quite frankly, may they cancel each other out because they are very different. I think the governor's proposal certainly seems to be more straightforward. But again, the general wisdom is to support both in hopes that one passes.
I move acceptance.
Okay, Member Crocker moves acceptance.
Second.
Member Schaefer seconds.
Be careful what you wish for, is that what you said?
Please vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had you. Okay, there you go.
Want to redo it?
Okay,
No,
no,
we got it.
Just
Okay.
I had her abstaining from.
Motion passes
my error.
unanimously. I would like the board to read this, if that's okay. Let's see, Member Schaefer, we want to start with you, if that's okay.
Okay, pull it up here. This is resolution number 1894. Whereas the Newark Unified School District Board of Education is committed to making policy and financial decisions that enable the school district to provide quality educational programs and services to the school-age children of our community. And whereas since the onset of the state's fiscal crisis in 2008, public schools statewide have experienced unprecedented funding reductions and apportionment deferrals totaling more than $20 billion.
Okay, Member Crocker.
And whereas California public schools now rank 47th out of the 50 states in per pupil spending. Moreover, more than 40,000 educators have been laid off from California public schools since 2008, impacting the quality of the educational programs delivered to students. And whereas the Newark Unified School District has implemented over $19 million in cuts in order to stay fiscally solvent. And
Member Mensinger.
Let's see, I wasn't paying attention. Okay, whereas the school funding crisis is at historic proportions, with 188 school districts certifying possible difficulty in meeting their financial obligations over the next 2 years, and whereas the 2012-2013 state budget is predicated on voter approval in November 2012 of the Schools and Local Public Safety Protection Act, Proposition 30, without which schools will receive additional mid-year funding reductions that will result in additional cuts in services and programs to students. And
Member Thomas.
Whereas Proposition 30 and Proposition 38 will direct billions of dollars to public schools, providing an important short-term funding solution that may allow for the restoration of some student programs and services, and whereas the California School Boards Association, representing nearly 1,000 school district governing boards and regional education agencies, support the passage of both Prop 30 and Prop 38, local schools, and all the titles are in there. So be it resolved, or do you want to read that?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Be resolved that the Newark Unified School District Board of Education joins CSBA and school districts around the state in supporting both funding measures, and proudly joins the Stand Up for Education campaign to urge the legislature to work with the SBA and other educational leaders to identify long-term adequate funding solutions for public schools. And be it further resolved that this body, the Newark Unified School District, supports the passage of both Proposition 30 and 38 because each provides needed revenue to public schools, adopted by the Governing Board of Newark Unified School District on September 4th, 2012 by a 5-0 vote. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, with that we go to board comments on consent calendar items. Any? Okay, I have a quick one. I had the opportunity to talk to different educators when I visited New York, Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia. And all those states and so many other states spend twice as much money as we do here in California. When I first moved here from New York, back around 1970, California was one of the top 5, and now we're almost at the bottom. So passing these two measures probably won't bring us up that much, but it will prevent us from having further cuts. And it's very important in our partnership with the different bargaining groups to support this. And it's going to get pretty intense as we get closer to November. So I'm sure all of us are going to be involved in it in some way or another. Okay. With that, we move to employee organizations, NTA. Mr. Goldsmith.
Hello, and thank you. Before my prepared comments, I'd like to reply to 3 things that have happened in today's meeting. First is I am so proud to join you in supporting Proposition 30. Member Mensinger, I understand your exploration of 30 and 38 and taking a position on one versus the other. After heated internal debate, CTA's state conference voted to support 30 and remain neutral on 38. But regardless of the position, I'm happy to be working with you to support increased funding for the work that we're doing. It would also be incredibly inspiring if this board were to join CTA in taking a no position on Proposition 32. Proposition 32 is designed to prevent employee organizations from being able to get involved in political issues. If Proposition 32 were the law today, we wouldn't be able to work with you to support Proposition 30. It would be an end to our ability to work to support students and strong education in California. Second, I want to briefly comment on the presentation by the summer school administration. It was fantastic. It was inspiring. 0 fights, micromanaged reductions in truancy, incredibly high passing rates. It was a recipe for what we need to be doing in regular school every day in every class. Every student who passes summer school is a success story, but every student who enters summer school represents a failure from our general programs. So I hope that we can look at what they did and bring it to our general programs. Unfortunately, it costs money. It's got an incredible administrator to student ratio, counselor to student ratio, often small classes, and follows point for point the intervention recipe that all classes need to be using. And the third thing I'd like to comment on is the budget presentation. And it was outright inspiring to hear the board say that their goal is to spend as much money as possible on our educational programs. Of course, that should be a given, but I haven't always felt that it is. So I am now confident that we have both the desire to maximize our instructional expenditures and, of course, thanks to staff and administration, the skill to do so effectively. That's an exciting thing to see moving forward. I'm happy to be able to reflect that we've had generally a positive and smooth start to the year. There have been some issues and concerns. It's always frustrating to see last-minute hiring, and just like Ms. Parks discussed, misplaced students in classes. The misplaced students is a particularly painful failing because we have the power to fix it. We can't control enrollment numbers that spike at the last minute. But when a student is scheduled into a class that they have already passed, that is a tremendous PR failing with that student, with that family, and with our community. 99% isn't good enough. That's something we need to do perfect. Every student needs to start the first day of school in the right classes. I commend staff for getting very, very close to that target, but we need to work together to hit it 100%. There have been some other little bumps on the road. We started the year with broken air conditioning in many of the high school classes, and facilities and staff and repair crews have, so to speak, burnt the midnight oil to bring most of them online. I guess some of us are still just too hot to handle. But these issues have been orders of magnitude smaller than in previous years. In most previous years, by this point in the school year, I had a stack of class-sized contract grievances ready to present. This year I have 0. So there are many things that we're doing right, and I believe it comes from 2 things. It comes from a desire at all levels in this district to do what's best for students and what builds the best schools. And I no longer have any doubt that that desire exists at all levels from top to bottom. And along with the desire, the talent to do so. So I'd like to commend and continue this collaboration that now exists. I was going to talk a little about Propositions 30 and 32, but I think that's been well covered. Again, thank you for your support and collaboration. And the last thing to talk about is the 2012-2013 bargaining agreement. I'm happy to announce that today we have scheduled a ratification vote for September 12th. And it's never easy reaching agreement, especially in tough times. But I think everyone has consensus that both parties, the board and the association, were strictly interested in creating what was best for our schools and our students. There were some differences in opinion along the way regarding what that was, and I think through a professional process characterized by mutual respect, we've reached a point where, unfortunately, nobody loves everything in this agreement. But everyone can look at the package and say that this is a good deal to move forward with. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goldsmith. We're really looking forward to a positive vote on that ratification. Thank you. The board members got an email from Mrs. Grumman that she will not be here. So we won't have unless somebody else is here from CSEA. So how about NUMA? Anybody from NUMA? Mrs. Waffle? Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you.
You're walking around pretty good.
Thank you. On behalf of NUMA, I would like to welcome the board and the superintendent's executive cabinet, our guests that are still here tonight, and the community to the 2012-2013 school year. And I would publicly like to thank the board for the great work you did this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also like to share that NUMA will be having a joint activity kickoff meeting on September 19th with 2 other neighboring school districts, New Haven and Fremont, as we gather together with some AXA people to talk about some of the programs that Region 6 will be having this year in Contra Costa County and in Alameda County, as well as what it means to be a member of AXA. And for those of you in the audience that don't know what AXA is, it's the Association of California School Administrators, and it is the organization by which NUMA is a member. We are a charter of that group, and we are part of Region 6 in California, which is made up of the school districts in Alameda County and Contra Costa County. We are one of the biggest groups in California, and we look forward to some wonderful work this year, and I will be reporting that throughout the year, and we invite all of our NUMA members to be part of our September 19th meeting at BJ's. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Superintendent, all business, items A and B, anything?
Nothing tonight.
Okay, so we go to new business. Item A, acceptance of the 2011-2012 unaudited actuals.
Move approval.
Member Schaefer moves.
I second.
Member Crocker, I just have a question. Mrs. Nielsen. We talked about the $2.8 million if Proposition 30 or 38, neither one of them passes, which we're sure that they're going to pass. Once these 2 propositions passed, then the $2.8 million, can you just tell me what fund is going to go in, or does it go back into a certain fund, or the 2.8 that we set aside?
The 2.8 will remain in the ending balance. It will go from being designated as a reserve for the failure of the thing to an undesignated, which will make it available
General fund.
for a general fund. I would recommend like one-time expenditures out of there, not any ongoing.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, with that, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes 5 ayes unanimously. Okay, with that, we go to item B, safe school funding. Superintendent.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to bring this item on the radar for the board, and it is both information and action, so I'm actually just going to bring some information. As you know, the site administration and many of the district office personnel meet monthly with the law enforcement partnership, and there has been a concern and an interest in having a part-time SRO. I've gathered some of the history in Newark where at one point the district paid for one and the city paid for one, and then the city didn't pay for any and the district did, and then the district didn't and the city, I know, yeah, all of those sorts of pieces. Now the city is from the tax initiative funding one SRO, and we do have a small allocation of funds called Safe School Funding, essentially, is the line item. And we have enough in there, we think, ongoing for a part-time SRO.
A second? So in addition to what we...
Correct. In addition to what we have, a second part-time SRO. One of the issues with the city and the police department is, since they're paying for it, and rightfully so, the officer is staying at Newark Memorial High School. And if we were able to pay for a part-time SRO, we could then have that person, man or woman, work where we would like them to work, and if we were interested in bringing back any of the DARE or GRADE program or providing assistance, certainly at Newark Junior High School or McGregor, they're interested, obviously they're interested in us doing that, and I know in my conversations with our site administrators, they are also very interested in that. So that's an information item, and we can certainly bring back actual numbers to you at a subsequent board meeting.
Member Thomas?
I'm just curious, the city can assign someone part-time as an SRO, and the rest of the time they'd be working for the city?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And we can then determine their responsibilities, where they are and what school they work at, and whether they assist at the high school or work in a DARE program or go to the elementary schools or augment McGregor and the junior high, yes.
What are we currently spending or projecting to spend our Safe Schools money on?
It's in the account. We're not projecting spending it on anything. This is the first, it's about, I want to say $50,000, $60,000 ongoing as long as they continue to fund it. We now have just under $100,000 in it.
Because we didn't spend
Correct.
any last year? Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Member Crocker?
I'm ready to vote on it right now, because I think it's something that's necessary at the junior high. And it's safe, it's the money that has in the past paid for SROs. I don't see why we couldn't do it now.
Well, if the board is interested, I've had ongoing discussions with the police chief and Commander Milner and the organization that we meet with monthly, and they are certainly interested. Obviously, it would need to go through their internal posting, and then we would have to negotiate what those job duties and responsibilities would be. But certainly we could, you know, our administrators, all of our site administrators, elementary even included, would think that would be a wise investment.
I personally, it would be 2 weeks earlier, we'd get somebody on campus if we start now.
Yes, I had a quick question, Superintendent. There's the GRADE program at the junior high. Does that extend to the alternative schools, or is that basically just a junior high program?
Junior high.
And then we have DARE.
Well, we don't have it.
I mean, when we had DARE before.
Correct.
It was a scaled-back version.
Correct.
Which is mostly dealt with 5th and 6th graders.
That's right.
So can you bring us back the cost on those?
Sure.
If you don't mind, and also the part-time SRO?
Sure.
Is there anything else that's Safe Schools funding? And because the city's paying for the crossing guards now.
Right.
Correct.
Right. So is there anything else that?
I think campus monitors, Elaine, correct me if I'm wrong, could fall under that. I mean, it is pretty defined. Is that, do you know offhand if campus monitors could? I'm not
100%.
Well, maybe
we can find that out and bring that back.
But I
Yep.
can find out.
Member Metzinger?
Yeah, I'd just like to see what all this could be spent on.
Sure.
And so, I mean, an SRO is a great idea, but, you know, maybe additional monitors might be, you know, and if you go back and you look at it, and by the time you work it out with the sites, maybe they might have a different idea or they could use it. But, you know, I think that having, you know, additional support is great. Just wanting to know what are the potential items we could spend it on?
Sure.
Or can this, is there any way this can be swept into other accounts? Or I assume no, or it would have been.
Actually, it is one of the categorical programs that is flexed. And when we were doing the budgeting process this for 12-13, Dr. Markin and I had discussed a possibility of this issue, and I did not flex it.
Okay.
So it could have been, but you didn't. Does that mean it can't be then because you didn't?
What?
Can you, I think he's asking, can you still flex it?
Yeah. Thank you for translating.
Yes, we could, but that would not be my recommendation.
Okay, I just, again, just curious. Okay.
So it seems like the board would like to put this on a fast burner, so we can.
We'll bring that next board meeting.
Okay. Thank you for the information. Item C, construction management update, Dr. Markin.
Yeah, actually, that is C. Yes, construction management update. I just want to update the board. I have been in conversation with our attorney, Mr. Lozano, and he gave us a suggestion to have the CBOC, invite the CBOC to review some of the 13 applications for the construction management firm. Several of us have done that. I have done it. Several board members have done it. And he suggested to have them look through them as well in an advisory capacity, and then see if by chance there was a firm or two that rose to the surface from the 13 with a list of criteria that we have developed. And if not, and there are a few, that even we could have some members of the CBOC actually do a first round of interview and then bring the final candidate or the final management firm to the board for approval. So that would be kind of a way to get at looking at some of these firms. I know that when I've looked at them, some of the numbers start to run together, and then I know you end up calling places where they've worked, because that's a very important way to vet them out. If they would hire them again and they did a great job and they were responsive and they were on budget and on time and all of those things. So he suggested that we include the CBOC, and I talked with Executive Cabinet about that. They thought that was a great idea. And so again, bringing that forward to the board in terms of information, and then refining that process and bringing a hopeful final candidate construction management firm, because ultimately the final key piece after you get through all the technical issues and the competency is it a fit? Is it a fit with the school board? Is it a fit with Elaine? Is it a fit with MOT, who are going to need to be, when they're long gone, maintaining all of the systems and all of the things they put in place? I mean, it really, really gets down to, now, they might be all good, but are they right for Newark Unified School District? And I think that will be the key final question.
Okay, Member Thomas, just give me 1 second on this. Superintendent Markin, I did have a conversation with Mr. Lozano on this whole bond and how we proceed, and I asked him to call you and to offer, different solutions. So we would be expanding the roles of the CBOC?
Well, as we spoke, it's just getting their advisory.
Okay. That'd be okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, he said if we wanted to have them run the interviews and then bring a final we could do that as well. Okay. Yeah, absolutely, he did.
Thank you. Member Thomas?
And I just wanted to make sure, I just wanted to get a sense from the board that I'm moving in the right direction. I don't want to jackknife and go off track more than I normally do.
Sure. Member Thomas?
I'm just thinking back to looking at 17 of those big booklets.
Right.
And was any thought given to staff whittling that down to maybe 8 or something like that, so that
Yes.
the CBOC doesn't
Yes.
have to read 17? You know, I mean, I imagine there's a lot of wisdom among staff to be able to prioritize them, to get a group that's worthy of being read. Some of them are just not
Well, they all
worthy.
start to run together, and then some of them, for example, I noticed had very limited K-12 experience. Some of them had very extensive new construction, but not as much modernization. And our building is modernization. So I think clearly in some of those, there was one that the largest scope of work they had was something like $30 or $40 million, where ours is 63. I mean, I know it's not that big, but you would start to factor some of those things. So absolutely, I think it's a great idea.
Member Metzinger?
Yeah, having sat and read those things for 6-8 hours or whatever it was that day, I became very confident that I don't have the expertise to make those selections. So I've never been in the construction business, okay? And that's what we're looking for you for. And I know you had planned to get some experts' advice as well, and sitting on panels. I don't have any issues with board members or the CBOC, anybody like that sitting on a panel. But what I do have is, if we set a panel full of people like me who don't have that expertise. I mean, there isn't any one of us who've worked in the construction field. So there isn't any one of us who can, who really has the expertise to do that. So that's where I look to you guys, because you've done it before in other districts. All of you have done it before in other districts. All of you have dealt with these, and even the vendor selections, and and made sure you get the right people in. And your calls to those other districts are far more valuable, and your input your experience is far more valuable than us picking the best slideshow or the best PowerPoint presentation, because
that's what they are.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's what it comes down to. So, from my perspective, fine if these people want to be, but I'm really looking, me in particular, I'm really looking at you guys to make this, to really come through and give us a recommendation on the best one. Because, and truthfully, you said work with the board. I mean, come on, nobody can do that. I mean,
that's true.
I mean, you were being kind. Really, they have to work with you guys. I mean, they do. They have to work with you. We're going to go, we're going to ask our questions, our tough questions, and we'll have them, and we'll, keep them on guard. But basically, they have to work with you, because you guys work here. And you guys are the ones that make the selection. So, I mean, that's my own feeling on this.
Good.
And I trust, and by the way, I have the utmost faith in staff to bring forward the best candidate. And I want to make sure that that's very clear.
Okay. Member Schaefer?
I had sent an email to Superintendent Markin that said virtually the same thing. It was, if you don't have the experience, then what do you have to really offer the situation, right? So I do appreciate the fact that the people who are able to make those connections and network with people who've been doing those things do take on that, and then the board can oversee things later as they come on. But I would value staff moving forward. And
Great.
Yeah, I too, Dr. Markin, getting our bond council involved in helping, and CBOC. I think Mrs. Nielsen said that she was surprised that we got so many, 13. That shows the interest level.
Yeah, it shows the interest level, and it shows the, frankly, the hunger level, and all of those things should work in the favor of a school district, not unlike our bond rating and our low interest rate.
Yeah.
All of those things, very, very different than the world we lived in even 4 or 5 years ago.
Right. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for the information.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so with that, we move to committee reports, announcements, and requests. Member Thomas?
Well, the only request I have is that we maybe have and if the rest of the board agrees, I'd like this to be consensus and not, because it'll be a little bit of work for staff, but I'd like to see us get a presentation on the adult school, how it's being managed to become self-sustaining and such.
That's an excellent request.
Absolutely. I already have it in my notes.
Okay. Anything else? Member Thomas? Can you share with us the back to school, because Member Schaefer and I weren't here, if you don't mind.
Oh my gosh, what can I say? It was wonderful. I mean, the longest applause was when the custodial staff was recognized for getting the schools. Wouldn't you say, Dr. Markin?
Yes, absolutely.
The custodial staff for getting the schools ready. So it showed how much the staff really appreciated coming back to clean, spruced up, schools and all the work that the maintenance staff had done to get the schools ready, so that was great. The singing, the great song, we should put that on the website if we haven't already. I think that was great. Staff, yeah, I had a great song. LaKimbra, Brown was the instigator, and everyone sang. That was wonderful. Dr. Markin, your presentation was off the charts. I mean, you are so inspiring, and so you really missed, both of you missed a fantastic get back to school. We had good comments from the units, the bargaining units, welcoming everyone back, and their staffs in particular. What else what am I missing?
I got a whole bunch I was going to say.
Well, we're waiting for the video, by the way, Janice.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, okay.
And that's supposed to come from Charlie, I think? The video?
No. Okay. I was in the front row waving my phone.
Liz is working on that, I know, for a fact.
See, in the old days of concerts, we used to light lighters, but we don't do that anymore. You use your phone, and so.
And I think it was a great esprit de corps. I mean, that place was packed like it hasn't been packed in years and years, if ever. And the T-shirts from each school were just great. The electricity in the room was palpable. How do you like that word? That's a good word.
Okay, Member Metzinger?
Okay, I have a couple of comments, basically generated from parents and folks coming in. And again, I did share, that I've been getting emails, and when I get the emails, like I always try to do when people say really good things about our teachers or stuff, I try to send them a note that say, by the way, somebody took the time to tell me this. So, and I think it's really important to recognize that, because we all are working so hard, and it's really nice to get an email, I think, now and then from somebody that says, hey, somebody told me you did a great job. There are a couple things that I've been hearing specifically in the last week a bunch of times about the websites, and they really need to be updated. You look at the high school, and you look at the, one of the parents called me today and said, how come my student is getting out at 2:10 today for a water polo game, but the water polo schedule is from 2009 or something on there, and didn't really understand and wanted to know if they were actually having a water polo game, which I said, I'm most likely the wrong person to call on this, okay? So you need to call the high school, and it is, because the parent was concerned that they're missing half of sixth period, and how many times are they going to miss to do sporting events? I said that's something that you really need to talk to the high school about, but the websites do need to be updated.
Is that really across the board, or is it more secondary, or is it just?
Well, I've heard mostly from the secondary, although there were some on the district websites, although I thought the district website was pretty good. Okay. It was pretty up to date. And I asked for an example, and the person couldn't remember from the district website. Okay. But they did from the high school. In fact, I went back and looked, and it said last updated by Jonathan Ferreira. So that I assume that's a couple years ago.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Yeah. Okay. The second thing is, I was lucky enough to go on a tour of Bridgepoint, and when Mr. Orput talks about Bridgepoint Digital High School, he said that a number of times. He's not kidding. And I suggest that you all take a look at that. They've got a new computer center there. It's about 25 computers. They've got computers in all the classrooms, and they got logins for each student. So each student can log in from any classroom, anywhere, into their main site and look at their records. It's beautiful. It's a great job. They're doing some fantastic work over there. I do echo Ms. Park's comments on it. But we also know that, there's the issue of, age limits and things like that. So we do, it's something to look at, and I know Mr. Orput was looking at it. But the one thing that I did want to mention is when Mr. Orput was up here presenting to the board a while ago, I suggested that we should provide services that are available to Newark Memorial High School students over at Bridgepoint. For example, College and Career Center. We have a college and career center that's partly funded by ROP with a person. We have 2 people working in there. I don't see any reason why they can't spend 1 day a week or so over at Bridgepoint supporting those kids. The same thing with counseling. They don't have counseling, but we have counselors. Is there a way that we can look at supporting the Bridgepoint students with some of the counseling services we have? I mentioned that when Mr. Orput was up speaking, and it occurred to me that we talked about those things, and we talk about a lot of things, but you know, I just don't want to forget those. A couple other things. MOT, you mentioned it, Ms. Thomas mentioned it. They're doing a fantastic job trying to get things ready, and it's not easy. And they're trying to fix problems, for example, in the air conditioning at the high school. When I went with Elaine and Ray and Tanya, we went and looked at it. They promised they would get this done, and it's a big, huge issue. It's been going on for years. They've been tackling it, and they're slowly but surely fixing things. Now, things are continuing to break as they fix them, but that's because, you know, of the maintenance issues in the past and some decision making that we made in the past that maybe wasn't the best in terms of how to handle equipment. But they've just been a stellar group in getting our facilities ready, and I just want to recognize that. Mr. Goldsmith mentioned the hiring, and you know, we have gone through our list of people laid off and then hired. You know, it's like 20-something new teachers. And I'm going to tie this together with the starting of the school. Seeing new teachers in for the first time in a very long time, having all the teachers come together in the commons in the high school. I likened it to spring training, okay? Everyone came in with the notion that we're going to win the World Series, we're going to win the Super Bowl. You know, the energy level was tremendous and tremendously upbeat. And again, I know that's something you're working on. Staff is working on. Let's celebrate the positives and fix the negatives, but let's celebrate them and not dwell on the negatives. And that group, you could feel the intense mood there to let's celebrate. And when you showed the issues, some of the issues with the dropout rates, things like that, and the gasp, that wasn't negative. That was, this is something we have to fix. And I really liked that approach. And it was the approach that was taken was, we have issues, we're going to deal with them, but we're not going to dwell on the negative. We're going to celebrate the positive. And so it was a tremendous start. It's by far the best one. I've been on the board 10 years. It's by far the best one that I've seen, just because of the mood that was captured. Now, Mr. Irwin's dance moves leave something to be desired. Not singling him out because there was a couple of assistant principals at the high school, but
we're not dwelling with the negatives.
I am just thankful that there were no board members up there either, but no, it was wonderful. The only negative about the day is that darn song was stuck in my head for like 2 days, and it just couldn't get out. And so, no matter how many times I beat my head against the wall, that song would not go away. So, please watch the video. Oh, yeah. Just don't play it anywhere near me because that song will go back and get stuck again. So, but no, it was a tremendous beginning. Been to a couple back to school nights. There's more. Again, there's nothing better than this time of year, maybe the end of the year, but just the celebration of schools, teachers out in classrooms early, welcoming kids, being prepared, ready to go. It was just, again, it was an excellent start. Staff is to be commended, and of course all of our employees for doing what they had to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Cracker.
Yes, after all that talk about the first day of school, I'd like to do it from a different perspective, and that is, I had a chance to go to all of the school sites, either the first or second day, and I have to underline, everyone that I talked to said the facilities were ready. They're the best they've been in a long time. The floors look great. Things that were done this summer at the high school are such an improvement. It's just unbelievable, the 300 building. I mean, I went in there and I thought, I'm not in a hole. I'm not in a cave someplace, because it was always so dark and it was always so smelly, and it was just, So I was really, really pleased with all the work that she'd done for the summer and all the work that staff has done. So it was really, really great. I did note some things, which I think always you note things, but they're minor stuff. And they're things that we'll take care of. But it certainly did not get in the way of having a good opening day. I was at the high school probably about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and the lines were not too long in the counseling. That's always an indication to me whether the first day is going well or not, as to whether the counseling office is filled with people or not. I did talk to a parent who was very upset because the child had 2 of the same class. And she said she did not stay around. She was not going to stay around because it was not worth her time to sit and wait. So she got a number and she said, give me a call when it's my turn. So I think that even though the majority of people had schedules that were fine, if your student is the one that doesn't have the right schedule, it's 100%. The whole world is wrong. And I think that, as Mr. Goldsmith said, we need to strive for 100%. Every child is coming, so the first day of school can be a productive first day, rather than sitting waiting for someone to get them in the class and then being behind for 2 or 3 weeks trying to catch up for what they missed. And the teachers figuring that they have to sort of slow pedal it so they don't present new stuff. And so I think that it is to our advantage to really address the issue of our scheduling. It's always a problem in high school, but I think that an awful lot of the emphasis has to be put there because that really impacts the first day for 100% of the kids. There's no doubt about that. So that was basically what I did there, but I also had a meeting of the Joint Task Force for Youth. And so I'd like to give you, I have a printed out synopsis of what we did. It was a great meeting. It's probably one of the best meetings that we've had so far. And I think that we sort of structured what we're going to be doing as a group. And so we have a timeline. And this fall, I'll tell you what we're planning to do. We are talking about the things that we can do. We're going to be emphasizing figuring and getting all the resources we can to help with the truancy problem, both from the school district point of view and from the city's point of view. And so we're looking at things like an assembly for the junior high, and we're working on that. And then I'm not sure whether that became solid since the meeting, Dr. Markham? Okay. They're also looking for a piece for parent involvement, because this is such a big point about truancy, is the parents have got to be on board, and they have to want to know, and they have to not allow the kids to easily not go to school. And so in terms of what is the parents' responsibility and targeting that group, the city said they are addressing more diligently students that are not in class on school days. And they said that that has become more of a priority for the force that's out there. We were talking about methods of getting better coverage of activities in the Argus and the Tri-City Voice patch. And so we've got some techniques that we're trying to use, because we do not have someone that's dedicated at the district office to take care of PR, get information out. Then how are we going to utilize volunteers, that type of thing, to get the information out to people in a timely manner, in an interesting manner, so that the newspapers will pick it up and so people will want to read it. And then we were talking about various student activities that might support fighting truancy. And so we came up with a couple ideas, such as poster contests for elementary schools, video contests for the high school kind of thing, getting the kids' perspective in terms of why truancy is a problem and what would be maybe a way that we could attach it. Any other ideas, we're certainly open to any ideas you might have. And then after the holidays, we're going to be working on the bullying. And then in the spring, we're talking about working on the health. So we've got a lot of things on our plate that we're looking to do. So if you've got any ideas, I will send you a copy of this particular item.
Thank you very much. Member Schaefer.
I think Ms. Crocker summarized it pretty well. So I'm going to move on from there. Just so you know, Shelley Adams, who's in charge of all the instruction at ROP, has moved on to be near her family and has taken a position in Southern California. So it was bound to happen sooner or later. But the good news is that Margie Trujillo, who's also been working in the administration, has stepped into her position, and staff is really happy about that as well as administration. So it seems to be a good fit, good move. She's familiar, and so they're building program there. So that's basically it. I think Jan did a great job of...
Yeah, I do want to say that I was very impressed with your ability to facilitate. You did a wonderful job of pulling us back as we need to be pulled back and clarifying. So it was really a very well-run meeting, and it's Ms. Schaefer that did it. Wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to apologize for not being at the opening. I had a dog going into surgery. That was on my mind, and then I was thinking about going to school, and that was it. It was gone. About 9 o'clock, I realized what I had done, went into total panic and other ucky stuff that I won't go into. But anyway, I really regretted not being there, and especially since it will be my last, so yeah. But anyway, I am counting on Miss Warren to come through with that video, so.
No pressure.
Mention that once or twice.
Thank you, Member Schaefer.
Yeah, thank you.
I should have never mentioned that I saw you with a video camera, huh?
No, that's okay. It doesn't take long to figure it out anyway.
Anyway, I had the opportunity to join my daughter, supporting her at the Fremont Back to School this morning. There were a couple of people there that also attended the Newark one, and Dr. Markin, it just, it didn't come close. Okay. Anyway, I too, on the adult school, as probably all of us, I was very supportive of what we're doing with the adult school, and I was under the understanding that it would be cost neutral. And so I'm looking forward to that. And I sent you an email on the department chairs on roles and responsibilities, and hopefully get that information to us. Mrs. Parks talked about Bridgepoint, and it was mentioned by Member Metzinger. We probably need to have more dialogue there, because we want to make sure that we're, kids that need to be there are there, and we can move that toward capacity. The back-to-school nights, I'm looking forward to attending those. As we move toward December, where we're going to swear in Mr. Stadler, and Member Schaefer is going to be leaving us. Hopefully, in the next couple of months, we'll take opportunities to celebrate her 16 years of service to Newark Unified.
18.
Oh, 18 years. Thank you for correcting
Who's
me.
counting, right?
I forgot about that 2-year thing. That's
There's
right,
5 terms.
Right, I forgot. We were right in the middle of that 2-year thing, weren't we, Janice?
Sort of.
But,
Was I even born yet?
I don't know. Anyway, we are going to be having a SELPA meeting in the next few weeks, and Dr. Martin and I will keep you guys abreast of all that. But I'm looking forward, and I know Member Crocker was talking about visiting the schools. I also want to do that, and I will call in advance and let them know, Dr. Markin. If you can give us your schedule, I know in the past you've invited us to come with you on some visits. I think the board would love to do that.
The visits during the day?
During the day also?
Yeah, oh,
Sure.
absolutely.
If that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And if you want to go to the dance,
Absolutely not.
Okay. But I'm excited about what's going on with Newark, and I'm proud to be part of the Newark family. Okay, with that, anybody else have anything to say? It's 9:40 and meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Wow.